Evening traveler. Pull your chair in a little closer to the iron stove and let the late-night valley breeze settle down outside against the logs. My name is Sheriff Silas, and after spending all these years wearing a silver star on the frontier, I have come to realize that the most baffling mysteries are rarely born of dark magic or impossible luck. More often than not, they are born of human cleverness stretched too thin, engineered by someone who thought they could outsmart the simple math of the open trail. Take what happened over at Blackwood Pass just as the winter thaw was turning the mountain switchbacks into slick mud and rushing streams. Blackwood Pass was the main artery for the overland mail coach carrying payroll lockboxes, registered letters, and mining dividends down from the high country into the valley settlement. For 3 consecutive weeks, the Tuesday evening mail coach had simply vanished into thin air somewhere between the upper Timberline station and the toll gate 6 miles below, reappearing hours later with its heavy iron lockbox cleanly pried open and every single coin missing, while the driver and the lone passenger swore they had been swallowed up by a thick mountain fog and woke up miles off course with no memory of the hours in between. The express company agent Mr. Vance came pounding on my office door just after sunrise looking frantic, slamming a handful of empty manifest papers onto my desk while demanding an immediate federal investigation into phantom highwaymen or supernatural fog that could rob a moving coach without leaving a single hoofprint on the road. Vance insisted that nobody could possibly intercept a galloping stagecoach on a sheer mountain wall unless the horses themselves were flying demons. In my line of work, you never let panic dictate the terms of an investigation. I told Vance I would ride up to Blackwood Pass myself to inspect the switchbacks before we started listening to ghost stories, because truth is a quiet thing that leaves behind its own footprint if you know how to look for it. When I reached the upper Timberline station, the morning mist was clinging heavy to the pine branches, and the stagecoach was standing idle in the yard while the driver, a seasoned fellow named Barnaby, nervously checked his harness straps. Barnaby was a man who had held the reins for 20 years without a blemish on his record, but today his hands were shaking as he recounted how the mountain fog had rolled in so thick he couldn't see his lead horse's ears before everything went pitch black. He claimed he woke up hours later parked off the side of the old logging track with his pockets empty of his watch and the coach box drilled clean through. I climbed up onto the driver's bench, examined the leather reins, and ran my fingers along the iron brake lever. There was something odd about the mud caked onto the lower footboard. It wasn't the dark, rocky soil of the high switchbacks at all, it was fine, pale clay mixed with river silt, the kind you only find down by the old abandoned sawmill flats near the bottom of the gorge, miles away from the mail route. Instead of accepting Barnaby's tale of magical mountain fog, I decided to ride down to the abandoned sawmill flats to see if the landscape held any answers the driver had left out. The old sawmill had been out of operation for 5 years, its water wheel rotted and half submerged in the rushing creek. As I guided my gelding through the dense alder brush behind the main sawing shed, I noticed fresh wagon tracks cutting straight through the tall weeds, tracks that matched the heavy iron-rimmed wheels of the overland mail coach. I dismounted, tied my horse to a sturdy birch trunk, and walked quietly toward the dilapidated engine house where the heavy timber doors were pulled tightly shut. Pushing one door open just a crack, I found the missing mail lockbox resting on a wooden workbench, surrounded by delicate drills, oil cans, and a stack of unwashed canvas mail sacks. Standing right beside the bench with a small hand drill in his hand was none other than the stagecoach passenger who had ridden along on every single one of the vanished journeys, a quiet, polite traveling clerk named Julian who worked for the Territorial Bank in the capital. Julian froze the moment the wooden door creaked, dropping his brass-tipped drill onto the plank floor with a sharp metallic clatter. He didn't reach for a pistol or try to make a run for the brush. He simply let out a long, defeated breath, dropped his hands to his sides, and looked at me with the weary resignation of a man who had played a high-stakes game and lost. Julian invited me to sit with him on an upturned nail keg while he explained how he had managed to pull off what the valley was calling the phantom robbery. He confessed that he hadn't used magic or fog at all. He had used psychology, timing, and a carefully built secret bypass road. Julian explained that he had quietly purchased the abandoned sawmill property months prior and spent his own weekends clearing out a hidden spur track that connected directly to a sharp hairpin turn halfway down Blackwood Pass. Every Tuesday evening, Just as the coach entered a deep mountain ravine where the evening shadow fell thickest, Julian would quietly press a mild chemical-soaked linen cloth under the driver's nose while offering him a friendly tin of peppermint tea. The harmless sedative would drop Barnaby into a deep, groggy slumber within minutes, allowing Julian to take the reins, swing the coach down the hidden timber spur into the sawmill yard, pry open the lockbox at his leisure, and then drive the carriage back up to the main road before waking the driver up with a splash of cold creek water and a fabricated story about a blinding mountain fog. We sat in the damp, quiet air of the old sawmill for a long while as I explained to Julian that while his elaborate engineering was impressive, stealing from the mail service and breaking the trust of the trail always leads down a crooked road that ends behind iron bars. I gathered up the stolen payroll coins and the opened lockbox, loaded them securely onto the back of my gelding, and escorted Julian back down to the valley settlement before the afternoon shadows lengthened. We didn't need to drag out a bitter, complicated circus trial in the territorial court, because true justice on the frontier often requires clear accountability, immediate restitution, and a firm application of the law. I turned Julian over to the federal circuit marshal when he arrived on the Thursday stage, while the express company recovered every single dollar of the missing payroll funds without a penny lost. The fire in the iron stove is burning low now, casting long, peaceful amber shadows across the rustic wooden floorboards of my office. The valley outside is wrapped in a deep, quiet stillness, and the stars are shining bright and clear over the frontier ridge. You see, partner, people often think that solving mysteries requires chasing ghosts or fighting off phantom coaches in the dark, but more often than not it is just about checking the mud on the floorboards, following the hidden tracks, and refusing to let clever illusions cloud your common sense. Until our next case file is opened, keep your ledger clean, your heart steady, and your dealings honest. Good night, partner.